Thank you for joining us on ABC 24. I'm anchor Pepper Baker, sitting here with two Tennessee lawmakers. We have State Representative Mark White and State Senator Brent Taylor, who just came back from the Tennessee legislative session that wrapped up last week. So you all have been pretty busy. The biggest thing we're going to talk about that came out of the legislative session, of course, is the Memphis-Shelby County Schools state intervention, which you all sponsored that legislation on. So let's start with first, there's a lot of wording around intervention and takeover, depending on who you ask. So Representative Mark White, I'll have you lead us off here. Takeover or intervention?
Well, it is intervention because you got two local representatives, a senator and a House member, who are intervening on behalf of our community. We've seen for too long that we're just not moving the needle. So no, it's not a takeover. As I say, the 9 board members, except for possibly the one that one of the speakers could appoint outside, are all going to be Shelby County members.
Okay. And do you have anything to add to takeover or intervention language?
No, it's an intervention. And I think the reason it's not a takeover is all the critics have been talking about how this didn't work with the ASD, the Achievement School District. This is not the Achievement School District. We learned lessons from the Achievement School District, and we applied those lessons, and that's why this legislation, basically what it does is it authorizes a local intervention into our school system. It'll be Memphians fixing Memphis's problem.
Okay.
And so it is clearly an intervention, not a state takeover.
And we will get into that ASD point a little bit later, because I want to bring that up with one of what the MSCS board members had to say. But let's get into the legislation. So I understand that the Senate version was the one that ultimately passed. So can you give a little? Is that correct?
That's
Okay.
correct, but it was a rewrite of the Senate version, which really mirrored more what the House passed last year. It just took the Senate a while to get on board.
Okay, so you all mentioned the 9-member state-appointed board, but the criteria points is where I feel like a lot of people, there was a lot of, that's where the disagreement sort of happened with the state Democrats on the criteria points seemingly targeting MSCS. So what are exactly the criteria points? What's the quota that these districts have to meet in order to have a state intervention?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, and I brought notes because
That's fine. That's a lot.
It's very specific and the criteria. But keep in mind, this is a bill of general application, so it will apply to any county in the state once they meet 4 out of the 6 criteria. And basically the criteria is 50% or more of the students not proficient in both math and English, school grades, which are the A's through F's that the school districts themselves get. 25% or more of the LEA schools receive D or F letter grade. 25% or more of the students are being chronically absent, and at least one school having been on the priority school list for each of the last 5 years. Failures from a comptroller related audit. And then the 6th one is a local board that has been through more than 2 interim directors of school in the last preceding 4 years. There are several school districts, about 6 throughout the state, that meet 3 of the 6. Shelby County is the only one that meets 6 out of the 6. So clearly there's some other school districts that could very well fall into this intervention program that we've created.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, because there's a lot said about accountability. These are accountability measures. And there's been a lot of pushback, say, oh, this is unconstitutional, Tennessee Constitution. No, if you look at Article 11, Section 12 of the Tennessee Constitution, the Tennessee Constitution puts squarely on the backs of those of us who represent the 33 senators, the 99 House members, that we are responsible for statewide accountability. So what is that? These are accountability measures. That's why we drew it statewide. But when we fall below, if we don't step in and do something, we are negligent in our constitutional authority. We have to make sure that the 140 school districts around the state are performing for the 1 million K through 12 students in our educational system. If not, we're all over the place, and we'll talk more about that later as we get into it. But these are accountability measures.
Yes, and that changed in the last moments of the legislative session from what was eventually passed, which you said was the 4 out of the 6, and Shelby County MSCS met 6 out of the 6. But is it true that this House version had 4 criteria points, and it was supposed to be, from that version, 3 out of the 4 met, and then it changed when those last two additional measures, particularly the audit and the leadership turnover, which, again, the Democrats at the state pointed out seemingly targeted MSCS. So I guess my question here is, why did those last two additional measures, why was that necessary? And is any other district going under a comptroller ordered audit? Any other district that had as much turnover, was that targeting MSCS?
No, it wasn't targeting MSCS, but to keep in mind, last year we passed a Senate bill and a House bill, and they didn't match, and we couldn't merge those two bills together in the time we had remaining. And quite frankly, the Senate was not on board with any of this. The Senate preferred to have the locals make the appointment, the locals determine when this would be required, the Senate version last year, I think, required a vote of no confidence from the county commission. And so I spent all summer long working harder than a clown at a funeral to try to make sure that we could get the Senate on board. And we eventually got there, but it was a negotiation. And that's why all the way up until the last minute, we were having to take input from other senators and other representatives to try to get their vote so that we could get this passed. And that's why you saw the addition of the other two criteria. It was simply a negotiation so we could try to get the Senate on board.
Yeah, I mean, on the House side, we had the entire House really, as far as, the leadership, speaker and everything. We realized we needed strong intervention, which is a board of managers, that an advisory committee, we were past advising. We needed to make sure that we could put down certain parameters and move forward. And to Senator Taylor's credit, because the Senate wasn't lined up, he has spent this entire session and last summer working with the Senate and getting them on board. And so if it wasn't for Senator Taylor, and of course I carried it the first year, but you got to have two chambers, the House and the Senate, yes, to get everybody on board. And through our work together, we got it on board and passed it last Wednesday.
He's been very kind. I was like the blister. I showed up after all the work was done.
Sometimes you need a good blister.
Yeah, that is a visual that is quite disgusting, but I hear that. Okay, so when do you all expect the governor to sign it?
I'm hearing possibly next week. I don't know for sure. We're putting in place we've recommended the board of managers, multiple names on that, and I just had a impromptu conversation. It could possibly be next week.
Okay. And as far as this 9-member state-appointed board, a lot of talk about names being thrown out there. Any ones that you're able to share that are being considered?
The names that will be considered were the ones that are on a list that was provided.
So you have a list?
I understand there's a list.
Okay.
We have been vetting, this is serious stuff, so we've been vetting people for the last 6 months, and there is a list out there, and it's multiple names. There's more than 9, and those will be submitted to the governor and the two speakers for them to make a decision on. Ultimately, since that is what the bill says, they get to make that decision. But we're picking highly qualified individuals in the community that have leadership skills in all the areas that we're talking about to be on that list.
Yeah, what's not on the list, the names that aren't on the list are a bunch of political hacks and hangers-on that have routinely been involved in these type of efforts. These will be quality individuals with a specific set of experiences and skills that can turn around large organizations. And because we need people who have experience with large organizations, we need people who have experience with HR, we need to have people who have detailed experience with budgeting. We need to have somebody on there that understands school curriculum. So there is a wide range of skills that are needed on this board, and I believe the governor and the two speakers are going to take their time to make sure we get the right people on the oversight board, so that because we've got a heavy lift, we've got a school system to turn around, and quite frankly, we've got a school system that graduates 75% of the people graduating can't even read. Mm-hmm. And so that's why this is so important we get the right people.
Yes, and to your point about appointments, the governor and the two House and Senate speakers get to choose. Then that was a change from the House bill, and the Senate bill was leaving off a county official. Shelby County leader would have been able to choose one of those seats. Why did that not make it through?
Well,
why did they get left off?
Yeah, well, have you seen the leadership we have here in Shelby County? We've got a school board who a year ago had a vote of no confidence. Then they tried to retract that. They couldn't do that. Now then, they're looking to fund the status quo, fund a lawsuit to defend the status quo. And the status quo is a school district that is graduating students, 75% of which can't even read. So that's why we don't trust any local people to make these appointments. And so just look around at the county commission and the local leaders, and you'll see why no one in state government felt that they were capable of making the right appointments, because they're the type, Pepper, that would do the political hacks, the campaign contributors, the hangers-on. They would want to put them on the board. This is serious work for serious people, and we couldn't trust the political hacks to make the appointments.
And this is a business, and this will be run like a business. I was down in Houston a couple of weeks ago where they did this in Houston. The model's pretty similar, and you've got to run it from the top down. And we're not getting extra money. The budget of the 1.8, 1.9 billion would have to operate within those means. 900 million from the state. Do you know the entire state of 147 districts, only 7 billion is our state budget for education. Almost 1 billion is coming down here. Now we have 1 out of 10 students, but that will only get worse if we don't get a handle on this, because TISA formula, how we fund our public schools, funds based upon student need. And the more economically disadvantaged you are, the more need you have.
Okay, well, and there's concern that the people appointing the governor, the House Speaker, the Senate Speaker are all Republicans.
Oh, you mean the ones that are making the appointments?
The ones that are making the appointments, excuse me. So there's concern that all Republicans are choosing this appointed board. One, when did this all get so political? I mean, we're talking about education here. There's that point, but also just any concerns about the 3 people who get to choose this board are all on one side.
Well, before everybody starts about who's on the board, how about let's wait and see
We're going to have to put a bleep there.
Let's see who's on the board. It remains to be seen whether or not it'll be all Republicans. I doubt it will be. There are Republicans making the appointments, but that does not mean that they're not capable of making nonpartisan appointments to come down and make sure that these Memphians are able to fix Memphis's education problem. Again, 75% of the students, Pepper, can't read when they graduate. We have to fix that.
Okay.
Exactly.
Fair point.
And I heard someone on the school board the other day that was on your program last week talk about, well, we're a level 5 school. No, you are not. You're a TVOS 5. TVOS only measures growth. If you have a student that's 3 and 4 years behind comes to you and you move them in growth, bring them up a little bit, that's bringing them up. That's how TVOS, we never get to proficiency, which is about 40%. And so, if you get a child 3 and 4 years behind and you move them a little bit upwards to where they should be, that's growth. But you've got to get to proficiency, and that's where we are never have gotten to proficiency. 25%, it never moves the needle. We got to get up past 40%.
Okay, you were a big proponent of the 3rd grade retention law.
Correct.
Have you? We're about 2 or 3 years since that came into law. Have you seen progress with that? Because there was pushback on that as well.
Oh, tremendous pushback. Mississippi went from almost last place in reading proficiency to I think it was 1st or 9th place. They call it the Mississippi Miracle, based upon our NAEP scores. They did it through 3rd grade retention back 13 years ago. We followed that when we came back from COVID. So yes, 3rd grade retention is tough. Nobody wants to hold back an 8-year-old, but to let them go on past that, which is what Senator Taylor just said, we've got 75% coming out not reading proficient. We know as a fact that if you get past 3rd grade, that your chances of ever catching up proficiently in reading don't happen. It used to be 34%. We're moving up a little bit. Our colleges, our community colleges, and our trade schools tell us 66% of the young people after 18 coming to them need remediation. Okay. 33, 34%, 66, add it up. So they never really get it past 3rd grade if you don't concentrate on that. But now what we're doing is we're going back and say, let's not be talking about holding back an 8-year-old. What are we not doing in K1 and 2? So now we're looking at those earlier years.
Okay, well, you always have the numbers to back it, I will say. I mean, you've been education focus for a long time in your political career. But let's back this up a little bit. I feel like we have a good handle on the legislation, what's passed now. But I know this was an uphill battle because you all started this last year. So what was the exact moment or the straw that broke the camel's back that you all decided, okay, we need to get this legislation going and we need to make this happen? Was there a particular moment where it was like, this is the straw?
Of course, let's back up again. We're continually looking at accountability measures statewide. But I'm from Memphis, 60 years. I love Memphis. I don't see us moving forward. We had two things. Senator Taylor's been focused on crime. I've been focused on education. Those two things hold our city back. And so I beginning to focus on why are we not moving the needle in education. So really started, focusing on that and looking what do we need to do. And then over the last couple of years, because there has been a lot of disruption on our board, we've had, I think, 4 superintendents in 4 years and different school board members. And I didn't see the needle moving, and I just feel like it's time, people keep saying, well, let's have a memorandum of understanding. No, it comes a point in time you got to say, this is the way we're going to march, because we got to fix this.
Would it be fair to say that because of the past, this current leadership, because some of the school board members feel like the audit, which was before their time, half of them at least, is not indicative of their particular leadership. So are they bearing the responsibility for the decades of problematic issues within the district?
Well, I will say you're right. The current board members are not responsible for decades-old problems at the school district, but they're not moving the needle. And to just keep trying to do the same thing we've been doing to try to get a different result is like marrying your ex. Everything's the same except for the cake. And so it's important that we hold these school board officials accountable and that we put in place these board of managers who will quickly turn this ship around, because again, 75% of the kids graduating can't read. That gets lost. That's why I keep repeating it. That gets lost in all of this discussion. And if you hear the county commission, the county mayor, the school board, they're only interested in their positions and what power they think they have, and the kids get lost in all this. What Representative White and I have been doing for the last 2 years is trying to put in place an accountability measure that will improve all aspects of the MSCS, which includes the back office business operations, but more importantly, it will improve the educational outcomes of students so that we have more than 25% of the people who can read at grade level upon graduation.
Okay.
And also, I've noticed the 17 years I've been in the General Assembly and 25 years I have my own business with my family, what happens over time, bureaucracy builds up. And you've got to be willing to get in there and break down that bureaucracy. That's one of the problems of our current system. There's so much bureaucracy in the system that it's very hard for any one person or any one group to come in there and fix that. So you've got to have strong leadership with the authority to come in and say, no, we've got to break this whole thing down and start over again. It's very hard to break down bureaucracy, especially in government.
Okay. Part of this conversation I want to debunk. So that question, what I had heard circulating was that the ousting of the former superintendent, a lot of people feel like that was the moment where the discussion about state intervention started. But is it fair from your answer that it's been decades long of issues and mismanagement that has also accumulated with any of the decisions that the current board made? And is that one of them? Is the ousting of the former superintendent one of the problems?
I'll speak for myself. I think the ousting of Marie Fagans, I think that probably hastened the need to try to do something. But I can attest to the fact when I was first elected in 2022, Representative White was already working on this. I mean, he had shared with me different ideas and proposals long before we ever came up with this proposal about how to try to hold the school board accountable. And Marie Fagans, when she was appointed, there seemed to be an opportunity there that, okay, maybe the school system will be able to slowly turn this thing around. And look, let's face it, she was touching all the sacred cows. Mm-hmm. And people were upset about that, particularly the school board. And but Representative White and myself, we both implored. We had meetings in Nashville with the school board members, begging them don't fire Marie Fagans, give her a little bit more runway to see if she can change this, and they promptly removed her. And it was at that moment we realized we have to speed this up. We can't wait. Every year we wait, there's another generation of students that are graduating from MSCS that can't read. And so we knew then the urgency of what we were dealing with.
Okay. You mentioned meetings in Nashville. Did you all hold town halls with MSCS parents, teachers, educators about these intervention discussions and hear what they wanted before you drafted legislation?
Well, a couple of things. One, we had a couple of meetings in Representative White's office with school board members before we ever got to this point. And I remember Representative White saying, something has to change here. We cannot keep doing what y'all are doing.
This is even before last year's
This
efforts.
was even before last year's effort. And we had a couple of meetings with them. Both have met with various parents who are begging for something to be done because it's their children that are graduating that can't read. And then as the different teacher groups had their day on the Hill this past year, I met with them, got their input, and there were a lot of teachers, which is the teacher union would expect, they were opposed to this intervention plan. And then lastly, we had a meeting with Superintendent Richmond and his legal staff in the conference room right outside my office this past year, asking them, give us some input. What could you live with? And we got nothing, other than that they came up with their own intervention plan that which reads like a joke. If you read it, it's the same. Who they were going to appoint to it are the same political hacks and hangers-on, and like they were going to turn it around when they hadn't been able to do it in the last 20 years. And so, yes, we met multiple times with all the key players to try to work something out, but they had no solutions that were really serious.
Okay.
And also, to that point, to address your question, I've lived here 60 years. And so I have seen things. The forensic audit was really pointing out things we already knew. That's why we asked for the forensic audit. And so it comes to a point in time that you say, okay, it's not being fixed any other way, so we have to move forward. But just in having been part of this community for so many years and decades, not seeing the change, when there is change in other areas. Can I make a real quick point? I met with the University of Memphis Campus School about 5 years ago. They were a contract school under the MSCS system. They could only take in 1,000 students. Now they were testing their kids and reading right around at that time about 84%. And a lot of the kids are the same kids that were in the system. And so I said, can y'all duplicate this? They said, yeah, we can, but we're under this contract and we can only grow so much and everything. And the reason they existed because Memphis State, before it was the University of Memphis, was a school that trained teachers back from 1912. So they had the campus school. So we started getting to work, and it took us a couple of years, really about 2 or 3 years, and then 2 years ago, we made them a school district. They are a school district now, just like MSCS or Germantown, Collierville, Lakeland. And so we're putting more and more competition into the local system, but we want that what works. And so it's all part of the big puzzle we're putting together.
And let me just say something about the university school that he's talking about. They were under contract with MSCS. They wanted to grow. They had grown from the 5th grade, I believe it was the 5th grade. They wanted to grow all the way to the senior year. MSCS wouldn't let them grow. They was the highest performing schools in the state. And MSCS wouldn't let them grow. And that's when Representative White and myself sponsored the legislation and made them their own school district. And now they're able to grow all the way to senior year. But that's what I'm talking about. The school district cannot fix itself. They had the best performing schools in the state, and they refused to let them grow. And they couldn't even replicate what they were doing right. That's why we have to have a local intervention of serious people who will take the reins at MSCS and turn the system around so that kids can graduate, they can read and write instead of like the 75% that graduate today that can't read or write.
Okay, so we're about halfway through, and I was going to kind of change to a different approach here or segment, but you raise a question about we talked to one parent who said that there had not been, MSCS parent of two, there had not been enough historical facts to show that the state's intervention or backing or support would prove to be successful in this situation with MSCS. And ASD, the Achievement School District, has been one example that a lot of people lean on with that. But you mentioned the Memphis City, or sorry, university schools being would you say that was a successful indicator?
Yes.
Of coming in.
University campus,
yes.
Memphis campus schools. Yeah, seeing that they were taking the same children, and they had a system that was 84%, not 25%, as Senator Taylor has been saying.
Mm-hmm.
So all these things combined, is you get to the point and you're going, at what point are you going to keep doing the same thing? And that's what the current system, the MSCS system, was doing the same thing when there were examples and solutions that all around us that we saw that were working.
So what happened with ASD then?
Yeah, what happened with the ASD, that was a really honest attempt. Remember that the ASD, okay, back to the point, this is why this legislation of intervention is so important. That's where the state came in, and we saw where in the Memphis Shelby County school system, the bottom 5%, the worst of the worst. Mm-hmm. So they came in and says, we need to help, see if we can't move these up. And so it was an honest attempt to try to bring these schools up. A lot of challenges there, but we, after 10 years, we said, okay, we need to back up and look at it going another direction. A lot of money was put into it. There were some successes and everything. One of the problems is when you have a model like that and you have qualified teachers come in, then you put them in management, and then the teacher leaves the classroom. Let me just say this, teachers are the foundation of education, and we need to really be supportive of them and help them. We got to make sure we have great teachers in every classroom.
Okay. And if I could just say about the ASD, we learned the lessons from the Achievement School District. The Achievement School District, like he said, they came in and took over the bottom 5%, and they ran them from Nashville. And quite frankly, they didn't know what they were doing, and they did not improve the educational outcomes for those students. We learned that lesson. That's why this is a state authorization of a local intervention. The people who will be working on the MSCS will be people from Memphis and Shelby County. And look, to your point, Pepper, this may not work. I think this will work, but if we don't get the right people in place to make it work, it may not. But it beats what came in second place, which is continuing to do what we're doing and continue to graduate kids that can only read at 25%.
It's a strong case.
Yeah, we can't keep going down the same road and hope that it will change. It won't. We need this intervention, and it's got to work. And it is working in Houston. After 2 years, their first 2 years of operation, they took and they had a district similar to like our Memphis school district, where they had all F schools and a few D schools. After 2 years of intervention, they no longer have any F schools. They have a few D schools, with the rest are C, B, and A. So the intervention will work, but it takes strong leadership, and that's what we got to make sure we focus on.
Okay. So describe to me, and Senator Taylor, I want to kind of have you start here. Describe to me the average MSCS student, not just reading levels, although I want you to include that, but home life, family life, their background, their race, their reading levels, academic achievement. What is the average MSCS student?
Well, we know about 85% of the students or more are African American. They come from families where there may not be a father present. And I will tell you on that point, it doesn't matter what we do. I mean, we could pass the best intervention program in the world, but we won't truly be successful until we figure out how we can get fathers to remain involved in these students' lives. The biggest indicator of whether or not somebody is on the trajectory toward prison is whether or not they have a strong father influence in the home. And look, at this point, all we're doing is tinkering around the edges, but unless we get the home life right, we will never reach our full potential. And I think there's more we can do that will help legislate around that, but it all starts in the home. And so until we can figure out how we keep fathers involved in their children's lives, the best we can do is to come up with these intervention plans to try to make sure that we can legislate around that.
Okay.
That is
Representative White?
exactly right. And if I can add this part to it, here's another factor. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle we've been putting together for years. I don't know if you're familiar with the Goodwill Excel Center in town. I was told by a former superintendent that over 120,000 Memphians do not have a high school diploma, and that 40% of all the children in our K through 12 schools in Memphis are living with incomes of 10,000, 15,000. A lot of poverty. Why? If you got 120,000 without a high school diploma, why? So we got to stop the dropout rate. If you're not reading proficiently past 8 years old, the rest of your school life is tough. You either drop out, fail out, or life gets tough. So one way we can fix this, here's another part of the puzzle. So now we've got this Excel Center in town, and we're expanding to about 3 more schools, is that we make sure that these people that did drop out, usually they're around 24, 25, 29, but they could be, we've had some in their 60s, go back and get that diploma, not a GED or a high set, but a diploma, to where now they can get into the workforce by getting Tennessee Reconnect, go to a trade school. So we're trying to turn that. But until we stop the dropout rate, and that's why there's so much poverty in our Memphis families, is because 120,000 don't have a diploma at all. And it's because we have a school system that has never addressed the proficiencies of how do you keep a child, how do you educate a child. We can't keep going down this same road, and as a not lifelong, I've been here 60 years, but I want to see this city change.
Okay. And that oversight board, when we talk about the average student and how that oversight board is going to change their experience within MSCS to make them successful, how will that happen? How will this 9-appointed oversight board come in and change the kids' experience? I know that the board has contracts they have to approve contracts over $50,000. They have budget. They're going to oversee the budget or approve the budget. Leadership changes could happen with the superintendent or non-elected district staff. But when we talk about academic achievement, what are the specifics about this board that will change that?
Well, one of the things that's in the statute that the Board of Managers will have to undertake almost immediately is they're going to do 2 things. They're going to do a needs assessment, which will be not only on buildings and which schools they might need to consolidate with other nearby schools, but they're also going to look at the needs assessment in terms of their teaching staff and what is needed to ensure that they can improve the classroom experience for the child. And then they will also do a transformation plan, and they have to do a transformation plan. They have to renew that every year, send that to the Department of Education. And so I think the Board of Managers, when they're appointed, I think when they first show up, the first order of business will be to do the needs assessment, to figure out what needs to be done to your question. And then secondly, they will develop a transformation plan that with clear, specific goals that they will meet. And the Board of Managers will be monitored from the reports that they have to send to the Department of Education. And look, they've got 4 years to try to make significant improvements. Otherwise, that board will be vacated and a new board will be appointed. So, look, the state is serious about Memphians fixing Memphis's problem, and we're giving them all the tools and resources and latitude to make sure that they can improve not only the back office business operations, but also the educational outcomes for the students, because we have to do better than graduating 25% of the people who can read and write at grade level.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Good point.
besides the business failures, as far as the business model of running the entire, I mean, this is a corporation, basically, 1.8 billion is a corporation. So let me give you an example on the academic side how it works. When I was in Houston, we walked around one of their school buildings, and the director of schools was there, and we're walking into the classrooms where active teaching is going on. And with that superintendent or that director, they have different school leaders that have a role. Then you have your teachers. And so they walked into the classroom, and we're observing the teacher teach the students in math. I was in a trigonometry class. I was just blown away at that level. And so, but what the superintendent's talking to the leader and evaluating teacher. And before we walked out of the classroom, the leader went to that teacher, got the ear, and says, here's a few things you need to tweak and work on. It's leadership from the top, and it's evaluation all down the thing. That's what we don't have, and that's what we've got to get out of this model, and that works. It's like running a corporation. You think about FedEx. This is a $2 billion corporation. It took FedEx from 1972 to 1983 to become a $1 billion corporation. Do you think anybody on that board of FedEx would have stayed in place if they were losing money? Mm-hmm. And so it's the same thing, but you've got to have leadership from the top, and that's where we're going.
Okay. Well, one of the board members, and we're going to get into this lawsuit situation in a second, but we're, don't want to keep you guys too long, and it's a little hot under these lights. But one of the board members...
Try being under these lights and getting your hard questions.
Oh, please. Come on. You're used to this. Stephanie Love at a special called meeting with MSCS last week when they voted to be able to hire outside counsel in order to challenge this lawsuit or state intervention legislation, had said that this was racist. This legislation is racist. How do you all see that perspective?
No, it would be racist not to do anything, because just as I said a minute ago, this is a majority African-American school district. And the racist thing would be for the state to wash our hands of it and say, well, that's Memphis. That's a bunch of African-American kids down there. We've got other things we need to be concerned with. That would be racist. But for the state to look and say, we need to authorize a state intervention, a local intervention of the school district so that we can improve the lives of these largely African-American kids. What the racist point of view is to maintain the status quo, which is what Stephanie Love and Mayor Harris, they want to do. They want to maintain the status quo and keep the political hacks on the MSCS board. But that would be racist because these African-American kids, the best way out of sometimes the situation they find themselves in, the best way to get out of that is with education. So quite frankly, I'm not sure what the she's talking about.
That statement, where's the camera? I want to look into the camera. That is what has held Memphis back longer than anything. Memphis is a fantastic community, but don't come to me with that language. Education changes the opportunity in a person's life. I represent Memphis. I represent Germantown, District 83. I'm education chair. I understand the value of education. We have young people in this city who haven't even, in the city of Memphis, who haven't even seen the Mississippi River. Isn't that sad? Much less, and we know that travel and experiencing things change a person's life. But to sit there and use something like that's really going to push us back. And I want to tell them, where are you at the table? This has been very, very hard for the last 2 years, just pushing forward in this, because you do get a lot of pushback. But I understand the value of education, and I love children, regardless of who they are or their zip code, so that they can have a prosperous life. And if they have a prosperous life, we have a prosperous city. Mm-hmm. And so, to say that is just, you've got nothing.
And by the way, the media has a responsibility to push back on that kind of nonsense. I mean, we're sitting here, you're pushing back, as you should, on this legislation, why we did it, when we came to realize to do it. And she goes and makes an asinine comment like that, and the media just gives her a pass.
I wouldn't say that. I will say I'm a black woman. I'm not a product of the MSCS school system. I'm trying to understand if it's optics. I think, is the optics here really getting in the way of you all's mission? Because we have two white men who are Republicans coming in and saying a state intervention needs to happen to a predominantly black or majority black school board that's headed by a black superintendent, black man as well. So, and then you have the student, which we already discussed, the average student at MSCS is an African-American child. And is it the optics? Is it the fact that you all are the spokesperson of this legislation coming in to try to tell that this majority board is not doing their job in a predominantly black largest school district in Tennessee? So I hope that the mission is what you all say, but are the optics getting in the way?
All right, well, then should we do nothing because we're afraid of the optics?
That's a good point. And that's what I'm saying. Are the optics getting in the way of what you want? And I think we'll see that as this plays
Look,
out.
I'm not as concerned about the optics as I am improving the educational outcomes for students.
Okay.
MSCS is graduating students, 75% of which cannot read. I don't really give a about the optics. I'm interested in results and getting this turned around so that these kids who happen to be African American have an opportunity to improve their lives and the lives of their children and grandchildren. And if that means I have to be called a racist to do it, then so be it. But I am interested in getting results and turning the school system around where we can graduate people who can actually read and write. We're not getting our money's worth. We're spending $1 billion a year of state resources. 1 out of every 7 education dollars comes to Memphis, Shelby County schools, and they're graduating people who can't even read or write. And for us to try to come in and try to fix it just because we happen to be white, we happen to be Republican, that somehow that's that's racist, is a ridiculous notion. And with all due respect, the media should push back on that.
So short answer, no, it's not racist, to Stephanie Love's comment.
No.
And this is part of pushing back on both sides, trying to get an understanding.
Yeah, I mean, optics, I don't mind taking the hits as long as I know I'm in the right direction. I had a state representative from Memphis on the House floor when I was carrying it last Wednesday say that very thing to me about, black district and everything. Well, number one, I've lived in Memphis for 6 years. It's my city as much as yours or anybody else's. But I really wanted to say to him, but I didn't. I held my tongue. I wanted to say to him, why aren't you standing up here and not me? You've been up here for over 30 years in the state legislature, and you're letting your own city and your own children fail, as Senator Taylor said, 75%. Why are you not standing up here? Why is it me? Am I the one that really does care? You can use the word. We've so overused that word. It just turns me off, and I pay attention no more.
I did listen to your Zoom call with the Greater Memphis Chamber, and Bobby White had mentioned similar or compared this situation to the Nashville Metro, where they did a appointed board in 2022, I believe he said. And so when we talk about the race factor here, or whether it is even a factor, have you all seen, regardless of race, a diverse a body of people in Shelby County wanting this or supporting you all's efforts in this?
Look,
from any sides, young, old, black, white, whatever.
Pepper, there have been polls that have shown that break down by race, and there is a large cross-section of this community that's African-American that wants us to take this school intervention. See, you almost got me saying takeover.
Sorry.
This school intervention.
I've been saying intervention.
There are broad cross-sections of the community that includes African-Americans that want this intervention because their children are the ones that are suffering. And so, yes, it has broad-based support. And this is, I know this is anecdotal, but if you look in the comments section of the newspaper that's talking about this lawsuit and this school intervention plan, if you look, nearly every comment supports what the state is authorizing here. So I believe those that are defending the status quo are doing so at their own peril, particularly those who are on the ballot, because they're defending a system that is graduating 75% of the kids that can't even read or write. And why they would defend that is beyond me, and I think they do so at their own peril.
Okay. I appreciate the candidness on that tough topic. It's never easy to talk about race. Representative White, you in that same Greater Memphis Chamber Zoom call, you did mention potentially consolidating schools. And I just want to get clarification because we know that we've already reported that MSCS district leaders have a 5-school close/consolidation plan going. Would that be in addition to that plan, more schools with this oversight board, or would it just be that, were you mentioning that plan?
Yeah, no, I think once it's the 90 days, as Senator Taylor talked about, this 90-day plan, once the new board of managers gets in place to evaluate all that. I've heard even from school board members now that could be up to as many as 40. We have one school, which is a historical school, and you don't want to ever talk about closing down a historical school, has 85 students there. Well, it comes to a point in time you got to take the fiscal note into consideration also. So we'll see where that goes, but we have too many schools that are sitting empty. I've toured a lot of the ones sitting empty that vandals come in that say a charter wants or a nonprofit wants. I can show you pictures on my phone where vandals come in and do millions of dollars worth of damage to that school that someone is wanting. But before the board can make a decision or the school system can make a decision to move it to them, vandals come in. Carnes Elementary the other day, $15 million worth of damage. It's only 25 years old. A charter was getting ready to move in last August, and once it was destroyed inside, they take copper and wiring, and took the AC units for profit, and now the building is a blight in the community.
But also, keep in mind the school consolidation and consolidating some of these schools, and he mentioned one school that had 85 students in it, and he didn't say, but the building is probably designed for several hundred students. But that, if we could close those schools and consolidate the schools, that helps with our teacher shortage as well, because you've got to put teachers at a school that only has 85 students.
Right.
And so that's why it will take this needs assessment and a transformation plan that will look at all of that, because all these things are interrelated. When it comes to staffing shortages, are you spreading the teachers too thin because you refuse to close schools? I tend to think so. But that's what this Board of Managers will look at. And look, when I was on the city council back in the late 1900s, Mayor Harrington, who had been a school superintendent, told me the most difficult thing a school administration does is close schools. And that's probably why the school board and the whole list of school superintendents have not done so, because a lot of communities are attached to those schools, but you have to make prudent decisions that are in the best interest of the school system and the students that they're teaching. And that's why I think this needs assessment and transformation plan is critically important to the success of the Board of Managers.
Yeah, those are the meetings that parents usually pack out, is when you have to talk about school closures. Late 1900s is when I was born, so I hope you feel that one. Anyways, let's
go back talking about race. That was easier than that.
Okay, well, sure. Let's go towards the end of this discussion now. I just want to talk about the collaboration between the state-appointed board and the elected leaders, what that looks like. But why do you think there's so much resistance from the elected official, the elected school board members? Why is there this unwillingness to think that this could be a good idea, or this extra help could help us? Why the resistance to it?
Yeah, well, I just met with a school board member right before I came over here. My door's always open, I always talk. And they all realize, I said, the best thing going forward right now is collaboration. If we've got a 9-member board of managers and we've got the 9 elected school board members all working together, the board of managers have the authority over the school board, so we work together, and the recommendations and the direction that the board of managers want to go, you get behind that, and let's get this done in 4 years so that the elected school board can take back over. But then they got experience on what we need to be doing, and we've got things in place. So collaboration is very important. Well, I'll stop right there, but we need collaboration with all.
But is it
members.
going to be possible? Is it going to come easy? I mean, are you going to be able to get the elected leaders to be on board with the fact that these appointed board members are coming in and now they have to get permission for everything?
Well, I think it should be. I mean, keep in mind just the legislative process. We have the House of Representatives and the Senate. Neither one of us can do anything without the other. And I'm not threatened by Representative White. I'm not threatened by members of the House of Representatives. I know in order to get legislation like this legislation passed, that it took collaboration. We worked together for the benefit of Tennessee and specifically Memphians. And I view this the same way. I mean, you got the elected board and the appointed board, and they should work together just like the Senate and the House does in passing legislation. If there's no collaboration, I can assure you, it will not come from the Board of Managers. I believe they will be appointed with an eagerness to collaborate with the elected board. So if there's a breakdown in collaboration, my guess is it'll be with the elected board, not the appointed board.
And if the elected board has a problem with what the appointed board does or does not approve, do they get a due process of getting to challenge that?
They do. They get to fill out a hurt feelings report and send that to HR, and they need to move on.
Does that
Because
answer
we
your
have,
question?
we have important work to
In
do.
more ways than one.
Yeah, no, the Board of Managers has complete authority to reset this, and so the best thing for our elected board is to get behind and work with them, because they do have veto. The Board of Managers has veto power over anything the elected board does, and so so that's why we hope that they'll get together and work it.
And when we talk about challenging things, the lawsuit, because I almost forgot to mention this, the lawsuit that they voted, or they voted on the measure, the MSCS board voted on the measure to be able to hire outside counsel to challenge that legislation. And not shortly after did you post on Facebook that Governor Bill Lee had already signed an amended bill that said that they could not use taxpayer money to do so. One, how did you work that fast to get the governor to sign it?
Well, I'm a very effective senator, Pepper. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. So look, if you remember, Mayor Harrison's school board had a press conference where they spent most of the press conference talking a bunch of crap about me. You remember that press conference? You do,
I
right?
remember the press conferences,
Okay.
but
So I arrived.
That's not what I remember from it.
I arrived down there, and suddenly they liked talking about me, but they didn't like talking to me, because the ones who were the culprits of that left the meeting once I showed up. But as I was leaving, one of the elected officials said, "We'll see you in court." And that comment got me to thinking, because we were still in session. I thought, okay, well, he said he's already telegraphing that they're going to sue. So Representative White and I got together. We collaborated. I wasn't threatened by him. We collaborated. And we decided that we would pass legislation that says that the MSCS or any school board, that they can't sue the state over accountability measures. And so that bill passed. The MSCS, they had a special call meeting to hire this outside counsel. And so I checked, and the governor had not signed that bill yet. So I contacted the appropriate people. The clerk met the governor at a reception in a private home and signed the bill right then and there. And that effectively blocked the school system from using public money to sue for accountability measures. If I could also say, now Mayor Harris and the county commission are contemplating funding the lawsuit on the school district's behalf. Well, first I would like to say that released today, breaking news is Mayor Harris's other quixotic trip to the courtroom to try to block the National Guard. That was overturned by the appeals court, and it basically says the order says the judgment of the trial court is reversed, and the National Guard gets to stay in Memphis. That was Mayor Harris's first attempt at trying to block state efforts to improve Memphis, specifically crime. Mm-hmm. He is telegraphing that he's going to do the same thing with education. He's going to meet with the same result because the only way the county can be involved, they can either give the money to MSCS, which it becomes public money, and they can't use public money pursuant to the law that we passed, or Shelby County can sue on behalf of the county government, which was what this lawsuit was all about, which was standing, and they won't have standing in court. And the last thing I'll say about this, Pepper, think about if you're a Memphian and you own a home and you spent all year saving your money so you could pay your property taxes so the government doesn't take your house away. And every single dime of your property taxes is going to fund a $200,000 lawsuit to try to stop an improvement plan that will improve education. And they're defending the status quo, which the status quo is 75% of the kids graduating from high school cannot read or write. That's what they're defending with your property tax dollars, my property tax dollars, and Memphians ought to be outraged that some Memphians, that all of their tax dollars that they paid for the year went to fund a lawsuit that defends the status quo at MSCS.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, and the reason why, now they had passed that legislation he's talking about the week before. Now the last week, session, we're on the House floor 12 hours a day. We went through 130 bills just on Tuesday, and one of those bills is the bill that I passed on the House floor, that same bill you have to have on the House floor. So I passed that, got up there and passed it. So it went through the House very quickly also. And the reason it did is because, as I started out with, accountability. That is our responsibility as state legislatures. If we don't do what we're doing, then we are failing the people of Tennessee, because it is our constitutional authority to make sure that we have accountability measures in place. So we're not going to send a district $900 million and then them take millions of that to sue us on the things that we think are accountability measures, third grade retention and all the things, A through F schools and all that. So that's where it came from. And actually, I was sitting on the House side, I was sitting next to the Speaker in the House that night, and I showed him the little clip that came up where the Shelby County School Board is going to sue. I showed it to the Speaker, who was sitting right next to me. Speaker Pro Tem was up in the well, and I says, "Look at this." He said, "Oh, wow." I said, "Well, you know they can't do that." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, we just passed that bill yesterday." I says, "We need to get the governor to sign it real quick." So he also got on the phone to support Senator Taylor, and we signed it that night.
And you pulled Governor Lee out of a reception at a home, at a private home, because he didn't look dressed ready to sign anything.
Pepper, I will do anything to make Memphis matter. And the two things that have been holding us back have been crime and education. The Memphis Safe Task Force is reducing crime by half. And this is the Memphis Safe Task Force education equivalent, is this intervention plan. And if we can fix education and crime, there is no stopping Memphis.
Okay. Well, I've definitely held you guys. Last quick question: is Dr. Richmond's job safe?
That'll be up to the Board of Managers. I will say that the auditors, when Representative White and myself met with the auditors, they complimented Superintendent Richmond on the openness and eagerness to work with the forensic auditors. The problem was at the operational level, down below leadership in the C-suite. That's where we were running into resistance with the forensic audit. But they said that Rod Richmond, that he was willing to work with the auditors. As long as he is willing to work with the Board of Managers, then I suspect the Board of Managers will consider keeping him. But that's entirely up to him and the Board of Managers. But it is unfortunate that the school board, on the night before the audit was released, that they made him interim superintendent. And they did that. See, this is the problem with the school board. They did that because they wanted to make sure that if he was fired, that he had a payout. That is taking taxpayer money that was intended to educate kids and putting the superintendent in a position where he can get a golden parachute if the Board of Managers decides to hire another superintendent.
My understanding was that they did make him superintendent, but then they voted to make him interim, so for that very reason, so that they didn't have to pay him out.
No, he was interim, but the day before the audit was released, they voted to make him permanent superintendent.
Came back.
Oh, voted to, yes, okay, got you, yeah, because I know they kind of went back on the vote, and that was confusing.
Right.
Okay, fair. Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen. I mean, we could be here really all the rest of the day talking about this, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this in the future. There's a lot to come from this, especially with what I hope is the true mission of making MSCS better for the kids.
You can say make Memphis matter. You almost did.
No. You didn't catch me on that one. No. All right, thank you for watching, and be sure to continue watching ABC 24 for all coverage on the state intervention of Memphis Shelby County Schools.